The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast coming to you on September 3rd, 2021. We are closing in on the fall, which is, I believe, the third season of the year. But anyway, I'm Ernest Christian, Ernest Egypt Christian here. First solo pod in a little while. Hope you guys enjoyed the last podcast we did here on this feed. We did our annual NFL over-unders podcast. You know, one of my two favorite podcasts of the year. The other one, of course, the NBA over-unders, which we'll be doing with both Zach and Chris sometime in October, early October, somewhere around that time, about 10 days for the season, somewhere around that. But glad to be here, guys. Glad to be here. Talking about this. This is not going to be a video episode today because I'm not really in the mood to suck out the video. I think the solo pods might end up mostly being audio only. Like, again, you can still watch it go on YouTube and follow it, but it won't have no video. You won't see me. I think the conversations that I have with people, if I have an interview or a conversation with somebody, a round table, maybe I'll probably be in video. But I don't know. I think that's kind of the direction I'm going in. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But for now, this episode will not be on video. Not really in the mood to check out the video right now at this point. I don't want to have to worry about cutting off the video if someone calls me when I'm recording a podcast. At least with audio, if someone calls me or I get interrupted by my kids, or for example, I can actually stop, recording. Whereas the video is a lot harder to do that. I don't know if like splicing the video together after that. At least in an interview, for example, I can do that and it'd be a little bit easier. But anyway, a lot to talk about today. Honestly. This week, first off, to not even to get on the sports rant or anything, but this week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, the 31st of August. U.S. forces finally pulled out of Afghanistan. Now, I did touch on Afghanistan a little bit on my episode with my buddy Eddie Banks, about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago. Time flies. My time is flying, by the way, this podcast. We did a podcast about 2 weeks ago, and we did a segment on Afghanistan and his thoughts of Afghanistan, how things were being handled at the time. I didn't get a chance to really discuss my personal thoughts on it. I was actually planning to do the podcast around that time, but I was able to get time to do a solo pod, honestly. But yeah, we're finally out of Afghanistan after 20 years. Afghanistan is very complicated, honestly, when you look at it. If anybody is really honest about themselves, it's really complicated. It really is. And a lot of the rhetoric and the conversation around Afghanistan is honestly, on both sides, really honestly, it's pretty intellectually dishonest. It really is. People want to blame someone for whatever. Doesn't matter. People want to place blame somewhere. Joe Biden's getting the big hit here not because he's pulled out of Afghanistan, obviously, but he's getting the hit because of the fact that the optics are bad. Like the way that it was handled, the way that they pulled out of Afghanistan, only to leave troops back, as a result, it looked bad. The thing is, I'll say it again, I will say, like, the last 6 administrations, the 2 Bushes, 2 Obamas, Trump, and even Biden, all share blame for how this is handled. This was a losing proposition for America at this point. Afghanistan, for me, honestly, is complicated in itself because for me to really explain my position on Afghanistan, I have to go back to 2001 and who I was at 21 years old. I'm 41 today. 2001, I was 21 years old. 2001, I was also much more conservative. I was definitely in the camp of being in Afghanistan. I supported the war. I supported the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, with the understanding that we had a mission as a country. There was a sole mission of what we were doing there. After 9/11, of course, the fervor around the country was, well, screw it. You want to attack us, we're going to come and attack you. And we all, obviously, we identified that Osama bin Laden was the reason why we need to go to Afghanistan and we need to take care of business. And we did that. And I supported it. Back then, 2001, again, like I said, I was a lot more conservative. I was a Resident Republican at the time, too, especially. So my position on the war then was more of support. And as the years have gone by, that changed. That changed dramatically, actually, to be honest with you. Because the war got wider in scale. It went from Afghanistan getting bin Laden, holding responsibility to the Trade Center and all that, to now we're going to Iraq to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Who, by the way, not a good guy either, but in my opinion, I did not view him as a threat. But at the time when we were doing those wars, I was still naive to think that, okay, well, we're doing the right thing here. This is go and take care of business and whatever. And it ended up being a disaster in the end. Yeah, we got Saddam Hussein out. Yeah, we got Osama bin Laden killed. But how many lives were lost in the process of this, and the whys and whatnot, and promises are coming out to fully withdraw from Afghanistan. All the promises that we were given by each president, from Bush to Obama to Trump and even Biden. And I understand, people's criticism of Joe Biden and the way it was handled. But this is where I'm bothered, and I'm going to give liberals, left-leaning people a little bit of shit here too, especially because had the shoe been under the foot too as well. If Trump was in office and this happened under Trump's watch, they would probably giving Trump the same backlash that Biden's getting from the right now in these last couple of weeks. The thing that people don't understand, though, is that Donald Trump and Joe Biden, for as far apart as they are politically, and especially the supporters, both guys are on the same side of this argument. Both guys are on the same side of this issue. Donald Trump even set a date prior to leaving office for full withdrawal, May 31st. He actually even set a date. And whether or not you like Donald Trump or not, if you don't want me in Afghanistan, you got to give Donald Trump credit for doing that. End of discussion. Joe Biden, to his credit, stuck with it, albeit he extended the withdrawal date. And whether or not we like the optics or not, here is the reality of the situation we need to understand. More than 2/3 of this country do not want to be in Afghanistan anymore. I talked to Republicans, I talked to Democrats, moderates, you name it. Independents, you name it. More than 2/3 of this country does not want our boys and girls, our men and women, in Afghanistan anymore. So, while we can sit and criticize the why and the hows and the whatnot, the one thing I'll give Joe Biden credit for, and by the way, for the record, I do have criticism for Joe Biden too, especially how he handled this too, because if your generals are saying that a swift pullout, or ripping with the band-aid, if you will, is what you want to do, I don't think it's smart, and you still go against your general's wishes. Not very ideal. I like to listen to the people who are actually on the ground. But that's my opinion. But in Joe Biden's case, anyway, where I will give him credit for is this: he stuck with it. He said, "We got to be out of there. We got to get out of there." Now, what pisses me off about sometimes with people too, especially with the situation, is that when that initially happened, people were pissed at Joe Biden for doing it the way he did. So what did Joe Biden do? He sent his troops back, leads more troops back to do a slow rollout, which by the way we've been doing already for the last, I don't know what, 5, 6, 7 years, if not longer. Draw back on troops in that region. So it's a little dishonest, in my opinion. And then we had the attack at the airport, Kabul airport, where we lost 13 servicemen and women, and he got shit for that too. But here's the problem with that position too, also, and think broadly here. If Joe Biden goes through with the full withdrawal, like originally planned, we don't lose 13 soldiers that were at the airport. So you can't play both ways. That's the problem we're having here. Like I told my friends, for example, who don't like Joe Biden, who are on the right side of things. And for the record, I like to talk and discuss these things because I think it's important to do that. Like, if you want to be mad and have a target, so be it. It's up to you. Look, that's up to you. But think more. You need to think more nuance in this. Okay, we can't play both ways. We can't sit here and say, "Oh, don't do the full rollout, full withdrawal, because it's bad optics and people get hurt." But then when we leave people there on the ground, and an attack happens, and we lose men, women in the process, you're still blaming Joe Biden for doing what he did also do. You can't play both ways. You can't play both ways. All of the discussions on this topic is intellectually dishonest on both sides. And that's the problem. We're so far beyond our partisanships now. We're so far apart that we can't even recognize that the last two presidents actually agreed on a full withdrawal. Both presidents. And Joe Biden, to his credit, stuck with it. In other words, Donald Trump, to his credit, set a date. Joe Biden might extend that date, but he eventually withdrew. We can't even recognize the fact that both presidents, Democrat, Republicans, Democrat, both were on the same page of full withdrawal. That's and that's on us as people, because we allow the media, we allow what we perceive as right or wrong, what we perceive as right, for the matter, based on positions that, this is that we were separate in the way we think. And that's just bothersome to me, honestly. That's just really bothersome to me, that we can't even come to a place where we agree on the basics. Again, I'm going to say it again. The numbers don't lie. More than 2/3 of this country wanted out of Afghanistan. Republicans, Democrats wanted out. And yet we can't come together even on that issue. Again, optics, I get it. Optics are bad. People are getting hurt. People in that region getting hurt. But it's all the rhetoric is dishonest. And this is the thing. Those 2/3 people that I mentioned that won out of Afghanistan, for example, I'm not including politicians because they have agendas. I'm not including the people on the right, left, the commentators right, left, liberal and conservative commentators and whatnot. The Candace Owens of the world and the Sean Kings of the world and all the people of that magnitude, because they all have agendas. They'll have brands to build. And again, it's just sad that we, as simple Americans who may not even have as much differences in what we want in our world, just can't recognize that. That's the part that's sad me more than anything else, is that most of us in this country actually are on the same side of the issue, and yet we still are divided, even on an issue that we agree with, which is Afghanistan, which is getting out of there. And for the record, I've, through the years and 20 years, I have come to a different place now in terms of position on Afghanistan. We need not to be there anymore. Honestly, I hate the fact that there are going to be women and children are going to be probably hurt and killed by the Taliban. And like I said, we had Eddie on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he wants to be proven wrong. I do too, by the Taliban. I have my doubts, obviously. In fact, I don't think they're going to come through, because what clues are there that will happen otherwise? In their history. But at the same time, I come to a place also too where I believe that we as America in general, needs to stop being the policeman of the entire planet. I know it sounds selfish. I'm not a nationalist, for the record. I'm not a nationalist. But we have enough problems here at home. We have enough problems here at home that we need to take care of. And again, most Americans agree with that. Even Democrats agree that we need to be home, take care of our own. We're fighting a pandemic. We're in the middle of a pandemic still, by the way. We got a Delta variant still that's running rampage throughout the country, and then we got another possible variant. Was it a Mu or something variant possible? So again, we need to get to a place where we need to think broadly and get away from these silly political positions, because it's just silly at this point. It really is. Another thing that people are talking about too, especially in the world, is this Texas anti-abortion bill that passed in the state, basically stating that anything past 6 weeks is considered a crime. Abortion, basically banning abortion, anything past 6 weeks. And one of the things I'm gonna have a conversation about this, a podcast about my faith and about my faith growing up and where I'm at now and whatnot. The abortion argument, and I don't want to offend anybody, but okay, so I'm not pro-abortion at all. I'm not. Okay, but I am pro-choice. Again, I just stated on the last segment about Afghanistan, earlier, about how 20 years ago I was much more conservative. A lot of my conservatism, especially growing up, as a teenager into my early adult years, was more so rooted in the church. I was a big church goer, even for a little while in the evangelical sector of it too. Now, obviously, through the years, I've actually gone away from that. I have my own personal issues with a lot of that stuff. I still believe in God and all that, believe in Jesus and all that, but a lot of things have changed for me on a personal basis in terms of my way of thinking. Not my way of thinking, but also just my thoughts and my beliefs have broadened, if you will. One issue that I was very conservative on for a long time, up until even say 15 years ago, was the abortion thing. And to me, it was an understanding, that it didn't matter. Abortion, to me, pro-life meant zero deviation. This is what I was taught in church, that if you are pro-life, it doesn't matter whether you are, doesn't matter whether or not something happens to you, whether God forbid a woman's raped, whatever, God forbid, but whoever, if that happens and you end up being pregnant, that was just God's will. That's what I was taught. That's one of the things I learned growing up. And to me, at the time, I was like, oh, well, okay, well, I guess, whatever. But, again, I was naive to think that. And as I'm older, obviously, you think more broadly. People forget. People think being pro-choice doesn't mean you're pro-abortion. I'm not pro-abortion. I have 2 kids, for starters. So I'm not pro-abortion. And this law, the 6 weeks law, I haven't seen the law thoroughly, so I don't want to speak out of turn about what exactly it means. I think where we should be having a conversation more than anything else, because I think a woman's right, period, in discussion. Okay, I think the real discussion about abortion and whatnot should be really had in the fact that where do you consider a life? Now, according to Texas, they're saying 6 weeks is a life. Okay, I don't know. I don't know the science, and this is something that we should trust the science on, really, honestly, if we're going to go this route. Okay, but I also believe that it's a woman's right to choose. The question is, when do we consider a life? I don't know. I've always said maybe 8 to 12 weeks. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the science, so I can't sit and speak out of turn on this. But the real argument about this really wants more so, and I think people don't give enough credit, is that the real discussion is about when is a life. But I'm not pro-choice. I've been pro-choice for the last probably 13, 14 years now. My wife and I remember changing my mind. Whereas I was with my wife and her grandmother at the time, we were having dinner or something, or lunch, or maybe we went to Port St. Lucie to visit her, and we got to discussion about abortion and whatnot. And her grandmother, by the way, rest in peace. She's a very, very liberal. I'm very moderate, obviously. And when we had a discussion, she kind of showed light about pro-choice and show me things about why that pro-choice doesn't mean pro-abortion, and all that. And it opened my eyes a little bit, and to the point where I started talking with people about it, and the things that it doesn't consider, like pro-lifers really in a lot of ways are kind of set in their ways. The thing is that one of the arguments I get into with a lot of people who are pro-lifers is that a lot of them do believe that you can't have abortion unless you are unless something happens to you, for example. Well, the thing is, if that's the case, and you believe that you have the right to abort if your health's at risk or something happens to you, you're raped, or maybe that, you should be able to abort it. Well, then in that case, then you're pro-choice. Because again, I was taught for many years that pro-life meant zero deviation. Now, I got a conversation with a good friend of mine she's pro-life, and she says she wasn't taught that. So again, but there are sectors of the church who do teach that if you're pro-life and there's zero deviation, and if you have a baby, whatever, that you just have it, and that's it, regardless of the situation. So it's a very complicated discussion. I want to read through the text thing a little more because I'm trying to avoid the extreme reaction, because I know people who are on the left who are pissed off and the women's rights, all that. But I want to at least see the bill itself to see exactly what was passed, because the one thing I know, the one thing that did stand out was the 6 weeks thing. They considered 6 weeks to be a life. Most people would disagree with that. Some people will say that it's a life at conception. You know what I'm saying? Texas even gave it a 6 weeks grace, which is weird in itself. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people, maybe a lot of Christian stuff who are pro-life don't like that 6 weeks is too much. I don't know. I'm having a discussion with people about that. This is a conversation I like to have on this podcast moving forward with people who are willing to have a discussion as adults about these things. But I don't know. We're in a very tense time as a country. Stress, and obviously COVID makes things 10 times worse. 10 times worse. So, anyway, let's lighten up a little bit here. So, when I was, I haven't done a solo podcast about a little over 2 weeks. I had wanted to do I had actually put up a question on my Facebook page, on social media, really, to be honest with you. And it was something I saw. Somebody had posted something, and I grabbed the image. It was basically something discussing, saying, what are the moments in your life, sports moments in your life as a sports fan, that drove you to depression or drinking? Basically saying what moments in your team's history left you feeling like this. It's a picture of a silhouette of a guy holding a whiskey, whatever, next to a bottle, like depressed and whatnot. And it actually got a lot of traction on Facebook. Actually, to be honest with you, and to the point I was like, you know what, I want to make this a topic on the show. So the 3 moments in my life that drove me not necessarily to drinking, but definitely depressed, definitely down. There are a few. They're actually quite. I put 3 here on my social media, but there's actually a lot more. If I really sat down and thought about this a little bit, I could probably find a few more. But these three moments are the ones that stood out to me the most, honestly. Kind of like a snap call. The 3 moments, for example. First off, moment number 1, not in order. Moment number 1 was the Miami Heat New York Knicks 1998 first round series, playoff series, Game 5. Now, you say Game 5, like, Game 5, you saw 6-7. No. Back then, first round series ended in 5 games. So, the Heat were the number 1 seed in the East, or I believe the number 1 seed, definitely number 2, maybe number 2, but and that was I believe the shot that Allen Houston made. Depressing. I missed that game. I actually missed that entire. I remember going to a friend's graduation that day. I was 18, and I went to. I caught the tail end of the game, and I saw the shot. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. This is insane. So that one is one that stood out for me. The second moment that stood out for me. This is actually really bad, actually. It was the 2002 NFL wildcard game between the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, that's the game where the Giants were up 38-14 late in the third quarter, and then Jeff Garcia mounted to come back, and the Giants just fell apart in that game. I've never stopped watching football for extended period of time over a loss, except this time. This game scarred me so much that I actually ended up not watching the rest of the playoffs. I actually missed the rest of the playoffs, including the Super Bowl that year. That was the Bucks and Raiders Super Bowl, by the way, for record. I didn't watch a minute of that game. So that game scarred me. The third one here was the 2006 NLCS Game 7 between the New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Mets had many chances to win this game to go to the World Series and did not do it. That was a really good Mets team for the record too. That was the game where Andy Chavez actually, the left fielder Andy Chavez actually caught the that crazy ass catch in left field that saved the game. Or at least we thought we saved the game for a little while. That game was wild. I was actually watching the game at work. Yeah, that that was impressed though, because that Met team was really good. That Met team could actually could have won the World Series. I'm convinced that if they made the World Series that year, they would have beaten. Who did they play that year? Did they play Boston? No, they played might have been Detroit. I think it was Detroit. They could have beaten Detroit that year. That Met team was really good. And also, that was also the freaking game where what was his face? Carlos Beltran struck out, looking, like seriously, like you don't even swing. Like he was frozen. And game over. Whew. So I want actually those are my 3. I want to read out some of the people on my social media posted on this, because there's some really cool replies here. My buddy Joey Dolan said 2003 Red Sox, Aaron Boone. That was the game against the Yankees, winning Game 7. Winning Game 7. ALCS. Brian Langford. I hope he'll be on this podcast soon. He said the Dallas Cowboys 2014, the Des Bryant game in against the Green Bay Packers, where Des caught the ball, but they didn't say as such. He also said the 2012-13 Celtics Game 6, LeBron destroyed them, but I love that moment for record because I'm a Heat fan, so I love that moment. That was a fantastic moment. Actually, that was 2012, actually. He said 12 and 13. Let me see. Keith Greaves says the NL East, basically the Mets and NL East, definitely an issue. My buddy Anthony Roberti said the 2021 Mets, yeah, they're pretty bad this year. What a year. Michelle Driver says every year Florida Panthers. They're getting better though, man. They're getting better. My buddy J.R. Alexander, who's actually the son of Boston Jack on his podcast, he especially said Super Bowl 42. He put a gif of the David Tyree catch. I actually watched the game with him. It's the first time I met him, and when we won the game, I actually consoled him. I consoled him with the Patriots, 18-0 Patriots losing the game to the Giants. I loved it. But let me see more of these good. My boy Frank Fabiano said the 85 Dolphins AFC title game against the Patriots. It's not a bad one. He also said 86 Lakers against the Rockets and Ralph Sampson. He basically said that we wouldn't hear all this nonsense about how great the 86 Celtics were. I don't know. 86 Celtics might have beaten the Lakers still in that finals. Who knows? Bet Broom says he goes he's a Braves fan, basically the entire 90s. D Cross says he's a Cubs fan. He says October 14, 2003. That was, of course, the Steve Wartman game. My boy Skyler says the 2007 wild card. He said 2008, actually 2007 wild card round against Dallas. So they accept the Giants, then losing the game to the Giants in the playoff round, in the second round of the playoffs. But of course, that was the Giants road to the Super Bowl. Here's my favorite one. My coworker Logan Will says 1990 NFC title game. He's a Niners fan because the Giants. One of my favorite memories. That was the Roger Craig fumble. That was the game Montana got hurt. Andrew, this is a good one. Andrew Kuklov said the Cleveland Browns throughout his entire life. That's a good one. He's a good place. I might start doing if I do more of these podcasts during the week. I may do more of these question of the week podcasts and get people to get involved in this. I actually like people get involved in discussions, and I read stuff on the show. So anyway, that's some moments that I would say lighten up the mood, but it's actually depressing moments in sports. But it's better until my Afghanistan and abortion and whatnot. Anyway, earlier this week also too, speaking of football, Cam Newton got cut by the Patriots. Surprising move. Now my thoughts was at the time, well, Mac Jones did outplay him for the record. He did outplay him, but I thought Cam Newton would at least be a backup. But my thought was too also that because Cam Newton is not vaccinated, supposedly not vaccinated, that maybe this was the straw as to why Bill Belichick said, no, we're gonna do away with you, whatever. Now Belichick has said, he came out and said the next day that is not the case. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't believe it, Bill Belichick. Honestly, I don't believe him and especially after given the year they had last year. The Patriots last year were 7-9, and you could argue that being 7-9 last year was a miracle, considering the fact that they had so much COVID cases and opt-outs and stuff before the season started. That there's no doubt that there's a raw feeling about COVID within Foxborough and whatnot. And I think Cam Newton not having COVID, or not being vaccinated rather, definitely was a kind of like a one eye thing. You know what I mean? Just like you should be getting vaccinated, you're not vaccinated, and you put a team at risk, whatnot. I don't know. That's what's in my opinion. That's just my opinion on the whole thing. But now where's he go next? I think Houston's an option because Deshaun Watson and whatnot, and that situation. I mean, he's not, number one's in the trade block as it is anyway. Number two, also he has the legal issues, so who knows where that goes. We're also, I was thinking Washington at one point, but Ron Rivera just had cancer last year. You think he's gonna have Cam Newton on his team? Fuck out of here. That ain't gonna happen. Maybe Baltimore's a backup. Is Cam Newton the starting quarterback in this league anymore? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm starting to doubt it. I thought maybe this year would be the year, but he's clearly lost the zip on his arm, and not only that. Sorry, a little big pause there. Not only that, he's just always hurt. He's banged up. He's not the same guy. He's a career where he's always getting hit. He's a running quarterback most of the time, and took a lot of big hits. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, he finds a land spot somewhere. I'd like to see him try a starting job somewhere more time. Yeah, I'd love to see it, but I just doubt it's gonna happen at this point. Especially with all these influential quarterbacks coming in the league now, especially. So. Oh yeah. So staying on football one more time. I made a decision this week. My best friend Alex actually sent me a text the other day, asking me to if I was interested in playing on, insuring his fantasy football team with him. Now we did this. Him and I did this a couple years ago, for a few years actually. But then sometime 2016, I retired from fantasy football. I just said, I'm done with fantasy football. Honestly, fantasy football for me is not fun for me anymore. It hasn't been fun for me for a long time. A lot of it because of the fact that a lot of the I guess because of the discussions about sports, especially, I hate when people mix fantasy and reality in terms of a football discussion. Fantasy football is a stat-driven thing, period, end discussion. You can't mix that and have a nuanced discussion about real football and make it make sense 100%. You can't. So, and not only that, I have the worst ADD in the world anyway. So, me playing fantasy football, that requires my attention. Will have enough shit on my plate as now. Between this podcast, the wrestling podcast, the other things that obviously I do. Not only that, I actually prefer playing. I prefer sports betting anyway. Like sports betting football, not basketball. I love basketball, but sports betting basketball is not fun. Sports betting football is a lot of fun. Doing parlays on Sundays is a lot of fun. Bet a $5 parlay. Pick 6 teams, maybe make a little bit of cash. Never win though, because I'm always one game off. But he sent me a text. I was at work, and I'm like, well, we're going to share the team, so that's going to help. So I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll do it. It's a small buy-in, not a big deal. It's the only team I'm going to do. I don't do one team. So I'm going to do it. Name of the team is the Cuban Raptors. Of course, he's Cuban, so it's his team. I'm going to help with the acquisitions and whatnot. The draft's on Sunday. So I'm trying to get my headspace back into, that kind of mindset, football mindset again. Because I've become the fan the last couple of years, especially too. I'm not as stat driven and like every little thing and transaction and this and that. And watch every TV show and not watch every football related show to see what's going on. I'm not that fan anymore. I'm more of a hands off, and I'll watch the game for enjoyment and let it lie. That's it. But now with me doing the league now and money up for grabs, of course, I want to make some money. So yeah, I'm going to try my best to pay attention to what's going on, a little bit. So wish me luck this year. We have the second pick of the draft. Trying to decide whether to draft Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara, because I don't think there's no way that Christian McCaffrey will be available after the 1. So and it's a 12-team league too. So basically a lot of details that need to be paid attention to because 12-team league, that means it's a war done as hell. But yeah, he got me back to doing fantasy for another year. After what, 4 years off. And to be honest, I didn't miss it. I got asked by many people over the summer, "Hey, you want to do a joint league? Want to do an auction league? Doesn't league?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." I just don't enjoy it as much as I used to. I just don't. Like, to me, the most fun part of fantasy football, honestly, is the actual draft. It's the actual draft. That is it. Because you get get together with your friends and whatever, and do the whole thing. But then by week 3, week 4, I'm ready to lose interest because I'm not. I hate having to worry about things on my plate. Like, I have to worry about my lineup. Is this guy playing today? Is he not playing today? Is he hurt? And the game time decision. And it's too much stuff. It's just too much to focus on. From that I really. Honestly, I have enough on my plate, and my ADD is running through the roof. It's bad. It's really bad. So, but I figured if we're gonna shoot our team again, well, why not? Let's just have some fun with it, and maybe we will make some money out of it too. Like the last time I played with them, I think it was in 2015, 2016. We actually went to the Super Bowl, and we made a little bit of money on the side, so it wasn't that bad. So anyway, quick basketball news real quick. The Brooklyn Nets are rebooting. They obviously have Kyrie Irving, got Kevin Durant, they got James Harden, but they also re-signed Blake Griffin in free agency. They also re-signed they just signed Paul Millsap. Well, I'm surprised I didn't get a deal somewhere else. I mean, he's still a pretty decent player. I mean, he's hurt a lot, but and then they re-signed LaMarcus Aldridge, who just got cleared to play, who just got cleared to return to basketball after retiring back in March due to heart issues. But he's been cleared by the doctors to play again. It's a bunch of when you have a team like the Nets that you have 3 high-priced players all making max money. You're gonna have to go cheap, but they get some really good value guys that are guys who once upon a time been someone in this league. Paul Millsap, former All-Star. Marcus Aldridge, former All-Star. They also traded away DeAndre Jordan today as well too. Traded him to Detroit, and then he got bought out already. And supposedly the Lakers are already going to sign him, apparently. So I'm looking forward to basketball this year. I can't wait for basketball to start this year. Then that's a healthy. They win the East. It's that simple. I mean, if they are healthy, if those 3 guys are healthy, I mean, dude, we're literally one toe. Kevin Durant toe on the line from him going to the conference finals this year. So who knows what happened beyond that? You get Kyrie back some point, and maybe they win the title. I don't know if they're healthy. I don't see anybody needs to beat them. Honestly, I mean, I'm a Heat fan, but I don't see it happening. Philadelphia, they're going to trade Ben Simmons at some point, who finally actually requested a trade. So it's interesting to see what happens with that. But yeah, basketball starts in about training camp in 3 weeks. Actually, I saw that 3 weeks from camp. Season just ended like last 2 months ago. But can't wait. Football's back. This is the most fun time to be a sports fan is right now. You got pennant baseball, football starting now, college football's back, and basketball on the corner, and hockey too, for the record. So, what else? Oh yeah. Oh, so what have I been watching lately? My wife and I just finished another binge of Sex and the City, six seasons. I'm gonna have her on the podcast the next couple weeks to talk about it because I got a lot of, we're gonna rank some characters and stuff, favorite characters and least favorite characters. I watched the show at least like 20 times. I think Sex and the City personally is a Mount Rushmore HBO show. Okay, now that's not meant to be a public opinion by a lot of men, especially too, because it's more a show geared towards women. But honestly, like if you're a guy, you should watch it. It's a good idea. Now personally, this show at times, the more what's funny, the more I watch this show though, the more I get a different feeling about characters in the show. Like for a long time, I used to love Charlotte, played by Kristen Davis, sorry. And now she's become more annoying. And I watched a movie recently, the first movie that came out in 2008, and she's even more over the top annoying there too. I used to, Carrie Bradshaw, played by Sarah Jessica Parker. I used to really love her character, and now she aggravates me now. I used to not really care for Kim Cattrall, Samantha. She had to over the top with the sex and stuff. People quote and say, what's wrong with that? But now, in hindsight, I love her. Kim Cattrall's amazing. The show as it progresses, in my opinion, gets more out of touch. like the show is much more relatable in the first few seasons because they're much more relatable middle class, well, upper middle class. And then as they get older, they get to like this kind of like this glitter, glam and glitter world and stuff, and it's hard to relate to those four, honestly, at least most of them anyway. But I want to do a podcast on the show and discuss it because not only that, you have the two movies that came out recently in the last 10 years, and then you have now the reboot of the show without Kim Cattrall, by the way. She refused to be part of the show. They already have I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a black woman replacing her on the show. I'm really curious how the show's going to be, honestly, because I do have low expectations for the show, honestly, on the reboot. I don't think it'll be that great, but again, set the bar low. Maybe they can surprise you, So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on Sex and the City and whatnot. And but watch it again for like the 20th time. It's still it still holds up well for the most part, honestly. I mean, like I said, the HBO Mount Rushmore. I mean, you got that show. I would say Game of Thrones. That Mount Rushmore thing might be a fluid thing for me because there's still a lot of shows I've not finished or watched yet on HBO. The Wire I've not finished yet. Sopranos not finished yet, and I'm sure one time I'm done with those shows, I'm gonna be probably feeling differently about certain shows that's on my Mount Rushmore. But right now, as I sit here, September 3rd, 2021, Sex and the City is a Mount Rushmore show. It's a needle mover. It still resonates 20 years later. It's on syndication all over the world. So I mean, whether or not you love the show or hate the show, it still had an impact. That's all. So anyway, I was gonna do an AEW All Out pay-per-view preview, but you know what? Check out the Take 3 Wrestling podcast, and we did that last night. So I'm gonna be lazy. Well, like we got a lot of episodes, podcasts coming through on the podcast in the coming weeks and stuff. So look out for that. 42 minutes is enough for me. I'm tired. I have been a long day at work. A lot going on. But I promise I will be posting more podcasts, especially more solo podcasts, and in the days and weeks to come. I'm having to eat my words today. My God. Anyway, Twitter EJ7. My YouTube page EJ Christian as well too. And we'll talk soon. Football's back, so looking forward to that. Love you guys. Take care and later.